If you thought that kites were just for flying in the park, then think again. Because we're about to witness a week that those who are addicted to kite power will never forget. In the last 20 years, kiteboarding has grown from almost nothing to a big deal. There are 5 disciplines, including speed, freestyle and course racing. I'm here in San Francisco Bay, a mecca for the sport, for a very special week, because kiteboarding could be going Olympic. The biggest name in this scene right now is world champion Johnny Heineken, and he comes from here. Johnny lives his life on the water and often sleeps on the very boat that first took him afloat.
So yeah, this is where we grew up, spending weekends, every weekend in the summer, basically on this boat up in the Delta, wakeboarding and sailing and whatnot, and this was pretty much the getaway. I'm lucky to have it as kind of a mobile apartment now.
Breakfast, great. The food of champions.
Yeah, frosties as you call them.
It's a pretty big week, isn't it?
It's exciting. It's a lot of people going into a room that don't know that much about our sport, making a huge decision that could change basically all the sailors' lives.
And that room is here in northern Italy. The world governing body of sailing will decide if kiteboarding will become an Olympic sport. A vote will determine whether windsurfing, a sport that has been in the Olympics since 1984, or kiteboarding will be at the Games from 2016 and beyond.
I think it's very unfortunate that kiteboarding and windsurfing is put against each other.
Yes.
Out there amongst the silver hair and dark suits is 9 times kiting world champion Kristin Boozer, one of those flying the flag for the sport. The odds of being selected for the Games are long, but for kiteboarding just to be in the frame, that's real progress. Like Kristin, world champion Johnny Heineken has also been promoting kiteboarding for Olympic selection.
I know that if our sport becomes Olympic, I'm put in the situation where I have to make a decision whether it's something I want to do full-time as basically a job, if I want to go to the Olympics, if that's what I want to put as the most important thing in my life, or if I want to just keep doing it for fun. And I think the fact that we're at that level and even being considered says a great thing for kite racing.
A man who has seen this world develop from the very beginning is Chip Wasson. He's enjoyed kiteboarding for more than 15 years. Chip, you were the first to turn up on this beach with a kite. What did all your windsurfing mates make of that?
Geez, well, we had been windsurfing around here for, I don't know, 19 years or so, and it was just kind of time for something new. I tell you what, I saw one picture of it, and I said, that is the future. And I got a kite sent over from the first production run from China in 1997. And all my mates, so to speak, they're like, dude, that thing looks horrendous. What are you doing?
In the early days, there was a big problem with the sport because the kite would take you off with the wind. But when you tried to turn back for home, you had a one-way ticket. The challenge was to create a kite with a return.
In the first early days, we would kite all the way down the beach, maybe 10 miles, and then we'd have to get a ride back up. And my mission was to figure out how to go upwind. And so I spent a lot of time developing the first kites that would allow you to go upwind on a surfboard.
A new sport was taking shape. Challenges were being overcome and a pioneering community being created.
We were all professional windsurfers, we all had sponsors, contracts, and we were trying to beat each other all the time. So you can imagine there were different groups that were friends and some that weren't, but kitesurfing came along and it brought the core group back as friends. And because there was no money, there was no sponsors, there was nothing. And so this was really a unique thing that happened. Those early days were really magic for all of us.
And at Crissy Field, the kiteboarding beach in San Francisco, I was struck by exactly that sort of atmosphere all these years later.
How friendly is the scene here on Chrissy?
Well, it's a pretty unique situation. I think it's unique to kiting as well. You know, it's not like a surf break where everyone's trying to scrap for that one wave. This is like, right on, get out there and kite, and we'll see you on the beach afterwards, we'll see you on the water, we'll, you know, have a beer afterwards. So it's a very welcoming, friendly situation.
But if kiteboarding is going to walk into the Olympic arena, it needs to be more than friendly. It needs to be seen as serious sport. The glamorous St Francis Bay Yacht Club, just a few hundred metres from Chrissy Field, has embraced this once underground sport and helped give it a profile in another world.
We're really proud that our members took it on and rose to the challenge to make it as much like sailboat racing as possible.
What were the challenges of, I suppose, organising formal racing for you?
I guess the speed is really was the biggest challenge, and then their closing speeds, of course. If they go 30 knots on their own, if they're coming at each other, they're 60-knot closing speeds. And their kites are so far away from them and the sailor that we're always afraid that the kites are going to get tangled up. But it seems to work out. Every day they all squeeze through that little starting line. It's pretty interesting.
World champion and club member Johnny Heineken went to Spain last year to demonstrate to the world governing body of sailing that kiteboarding could work in the Olympics.
We went into it and had a lot of skeptical faces on our evaluation panel, and by the end we've pretty much proven all that we could.
But for kiteboarding to be chosen, one existing discipline has to go, and they're up against windsurfing.
What it's really based on is none of the other classes wanting to leave the Olympics, right? And you've got 10 or 11 medals, so when all these other classes can band together and say, well, it's a lot easier for us to stay in and not be threatened by this high-performance class that wants to get in, if we say, well, they're just like the windsurfers, let's put them against each other and say that only one of them needs to be in. And much of the reason our class even exists is because of windsurfing. So having to displace that sport is not the goal at all.
Nearly 6,000 miles away in Italy, and the future of kiteboarding as an Olympic class is just hours away.
To include the kite surfers at the cost of the windsurfers is something that I think people are struggling with.
Well, everyone is sitting down. They're going to announce the vote for windsurfing and kitesurfing in just a minute. There's a lot of excitement, a lot of tension, a lot of nervousness too.
These are anxious moments for kiteboarding and windsurfing. There will only be an Olympic future for one of them.